Hey guys, this is your High Fist here with another juicy topic. This video is going to be short because I have a very brief point to make, but I think it's important. We all know that the 10 big books are a great feat of mental strength and that Erikson managed to do what many other writers couldn't. He wrote thousands of pages, millions of words in the space of just a decade. And when we then look at the attention to detail placed on every word and every page and every line, that achievement becomes even more monumental when we consider the effort that it must have taken. Because the 10 big books are not just 12 or 13,000 pages of pulp fiction, they are serious literature where it's very clear that everything from the word selection to sentence length to plot construction have all been very, very meticulously considered and realized on every single page, right? This is, of course, not to say that writers who write endless amounts of escapist fiction don't deserve praise. They certainly do. But I'd argue that paying this kind of attention to detail for so many pages and to finish that project within a stipulated period of time, I would say that it's much harder to do it with literature than with escapist fiction. Because simply writing a cliche short story, let's take a short story as an example. Writing a cliche short story of 1,000 words, I would argue, is less exhausting, at least, than writing serious literature of 1,000 words where every word and every sentence has to be picked very carefully. And here's my argument. I think the most underrated thing about Steven Erikson and the reason he could complete the 10 big books, while authors like, let's say, George R. R. Martin struggle to finish theirs, I would say it's because of Erickson's physical fitness. And I know some of you are going to be like, well, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Writing is a mental game. It's not a physical game. Writing's about pouring your soul into words through the tapping of your fingers. It's not about running a marathon or whatever. But I would hold my ground and argue that physical fitness is one of the most underappreciated aspects of writing large amounts of both fiction and non-fiction, particularly when it comes to writing such large amounts of prose, where each line and each word requires so much thought and effort. And I want to give you guys two basic examples. The great novelist, what's his name, Haruki Murakami, when he was asked about what he thought made him a better writer than many contemporary younger Japanese and international writers, he said, oh, it's simple. Many modern writers do not take their physical fitness as seriously as I do. They think writing is all about tapping out words, and they don't realize just how physically strenuous serious writing can be. To sit on a chair for 5 or 6 hours a day, every single day, for years and years and years, and still be able to channel that energy into properly constructed words without letting the exhaustion get to you. His point was that most people don't really understand just how important that is to a serious writer. And a lot of people were skeptical when he said this, but think about it, right? The more physically exhausted you are, the quicker you get mentally frazzled as well. So even if we were to look at writing as a mental game, there's no way for us to deny the importance of physical fitness. This is why competitive fighters, for instance, focus so much on their cardio, because it's once you start getting tired in a fight that you start making bad decisions. It's once you're physically fatigued in a fight that all kinds of negative emotions like panic, fear, doubt, and all that start taking over. Physical fitness is absolutely vital to maintain any kind of mental fitness over a long, sustained period of time. The second example I wanted to sort of discuss here today quickly is Bobby Fischer, one of the greatest chess players of all time. I remember watching a video of him being interviewed in some American show. I think it was the Dick Cavett show, where he was asked what the secret of his success was. And he was, once again, he was like, it's very simple. I run every day and I'm physically fit. And when he said that, the entire audience laughed because they were like, what's he talking about? Chess is a mental game. It's not a physical game. It's silly to think that physical fitness would make you a better chess player. But what Bobby Fischer said is absolutely true. I mean, look, you don't have to believe me. You can just look this up yourself, right? There are about almost 2,000 chess grandmasters in the world today from about 100 different countries. How many chess grandmasters do you know or can you find who are obese and out of shape? Out of these 2,000 grandmasters from 100 different countries, how many of them are physically unfit? If you check this out for yourselves, you would see that practically all of them are physically fit because they all realize how important it is when you sit in one place for 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 8 hours, making these long, complex, and rapid calculations over and over and over again. The instant you get physically fatigued, your decision making and your calculating abilities completely go haywire. So the audience laughed at Bobby Fischer when he said this, as if they knew more about being a high level chess player than he did. And I think there's an argument to be made that if a writer was to say something like this, most audiences today would laugh at that writer as well. Because most people have absolutely no idea what it takes to write at that level and the physical toll that it can often take. In fact, I'm not too sure how many writers themselves are aware of just how improving your physical fitness can improve their writing and improve their ability to write a lot. And this once again brings me to Steven Erikson. We all know that he used to fence. We all know that he spent a lot of time outdoors on excavation, digs, and all that. And it's clear that, at least in his youth, physical fitness was a relatively big part of his life. And I don't think somebody who's out of shape or unfit could have written the 10 big books in the 10 years that he did. Now, people can, of course, say, hey, but what about guys like Brandon Sanderson, right? He writes like a machine. He's constantly writing, and he's not necessarily, he's not necessarily Baywatch cast material. And that's a fair point. Yeah, if you have a big team around you, like Sanderson does, or if you write plot oriented stories like he does, where it's not necessarily about playing with the English language, about word selections, about psychic distance, where it's not about focusing on the prose and the language itself. Yeah, I'm sure stuff like that can be managed. But to write something like the 10 big books, where you have thousands and thousands, like 12, 13,000 pages, where so much attention and energy is funneled into each word, I certainly think you need to be physically fit. Plus, Ericsson did all that by himself, right? He didn't have a giant team or whatever as backup. And we all know that Ericsson is writing a book on writing. And I can't help but wonder if he's going to include this aspect, which I think he should, because I've seen Ericsson discuss the craft of writing in so many videos. And I've also seen Ericsson discuss the craft of writing huge books, and he's given out a lot of very helpful tips to aspiring writers on how they can reach that level as well. So for example, he's discussed elliptical writing and how that can help you write longer novels where you just take things scene by scene. But I don't think I recall him ever discussing this physical aspect of writing fiction and how that can help you write long works like the 10 big books. As in, he's spoken about how his interest in fencing has helped him write better action sequences. He's spoken about how his outdoors experiences have helped him describe these vast, sweeping landscapes that we're all used to in the 10 big books. But I don't think he's discussed how his fencing and his outdoors lifestyle and how his fitness in general gave him that stamina to write the 10 big books. because we're also busy marveling at the mental endurance that it must have taken him to write the 10 big books in that span of time, that we often forget just how much physical endurance it must have required someone to do that. And I do hope that he touches on that in his book as well, because I think there are many aspiring writers out there who need to realize the importance of some of these unspoken things. And yeah, so those were my quick thoughts. I told you that this would be a short video. I hope you guys found that interesting. And of course, I'd like to hear what you guys think as well about the importance of physical fitness for writing these big works of literature. I think it is an interesting conversation. It's not a particularly original conversation, but I think it's interesting nonetheless. This is your High Fist. Take care, guys, and I'll see you soon.